So the social media OnlyFans, like what percentage would you say is the majority of your income? Like that'd be like 90-10 or
Majority
80-20?
is OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Yeah, because like I don't really have any big brands that I'm working with right now. That's kind of like still in the works, but yeah, it's definitely OnlyFans.
And how much, say a day, do you have to spend on that?
It just depends.
The
Like
more you post, the more you interact, the more money you make, right?
yeah. So it's a lot. It's time consuming because I mean, if you're not on the site, you can set up your stuff like your posts like pre-scheduled, so they can go out. People could still buy your content or whatever. But it's like, okay, yeah, you could make money while you're sleeping, which is good. That's the goal. You don't want to have to like work all the time, like 24/7. But if you sit on the computer and actually like invest your time into it, then you can like start making some really good money if you put your time into it.
The guys that are dropping serious money, they want to interact with you. They don't want to just have a post that everyone else can buy or, you know.
And sometimes, a lot of the times, these people just want to talk to me. They don't even want my content. They just want the one-on-one. They just want to talk, you know? So I think it's like, they kind of see who I am online and they're just like, oh, she looks cool. I want to chit chat, you know?
Well, I think it's one of those things they probably want to put a voice to their fantasy, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like they're seeing a picture of you, but they kind of want to know, like, who is this person? Let's get to know them a little bit more. And that's really interesting. Yeah. Have you had like any international fans hit you up or anything like that?
I'm sure there are, but I haven't.
No one is saying, hey, come fly out to Barbados and party with me, nothing like that?
Well, I mean, of course I have like here and there, but I just like, no thanks, you know, like stranger danger.
Smart.
Locked up abroad or any of those shows. Anytime you go
no, thank
some
you.
other country, you're
well, like anything I do, I like doing it alone. It's, you know, so I especially don't want to do it with a stranger.
Do you ever think you might find someone on the site? Like your person?
No, anyone.
Really?
No, I mean,
it could happen, right?
I mean, it's always a possibility, but I prefer whoever I'm with not to be on that site because it's like, it's my job, you know?
You want to mix business with pleasure.
Yeah.
And have you ever dated a guy and like, do you do it right off the bat? Like, hey, I do OnlyFans. Like,
yeah. And
what is their reaction?
Well, I mean, a lot of the times they've met me like through the internet, so they already see that, you know? So, and then, you know, once you get to know them, they get to know me and they're like, oh, she's not really like the other OnlyFans girl. Not saying I'm like the best one or like different. Look at me, guys, I'm different. Like, no, but, you know, it's just, there's a sense of being a little bit different than like the other, you know, OnlyFans girls, I guess. I don't know, I guess because of my personality, but then they're a little bit more okay with it. But a lot of the times, like say, for instance, I did date this one guy, and of course, it was like a red flag right in the beginning because he was like, oh, I don't have a problem with your OnlyFans. It was like years ago. He's like, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. I'm like, got it. You don't need to keep like repeating yourself that you have a problem
Almost
with it.
Sounds like you kind of do have a problem with it.
Exactly. And then months go on, and then it's like, oh, well, what do you like post on there? I'm like, it's none of your business. Like, I would rather you not know, you know? It's like, just let me do my thing, and that's it, you know? That's kind of how I want it to be, you know? And then he was like, oh, I just want to help. I want to be involved and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, you know what? And I sat there and thought, I was like, okay, there are some girls that I know where their boyfriends like help them and they're supportive, and okay, I want that. That'd be cool, you know, as long as he's cool with it. Like, it's whatever. And then like he'd take like some pictures, you know, for me or whatever. And I'm like, that's cool. And then it started getting to the point where it was like, well, then where's my photo? I'm like, what? Huh? And he's like, oh, don't I get one too? Why aren't you sending me photos? I'm like, this is my job. The last thing I want to fucking do is send you a fucking photo.
Yeah.
Like, I take photos of myself every week. I'm like,
look at this picture of my girl. Hey, I've got the same one, you know? Like,
or like say that I give them a photo and they're like, did you send that out to everyone else? I'm like, God, do you want your own content? I don't want to, this is too time consuming.
How much are you paying a month?
yeah. But then it turned into, you know, then he got drunk one night and he's like, let me see your OnlyFans. And I was like, no, dude. He's like, let me just see it. And I was like, no. And of course, he was like persistent. And I was just like, fine. And I just gave in because I got tired of hearing his fucking whininess. And of course, he like opened it and he started complaining about everything. We were talking to this dude and this and this and this. I'm like, it's my job. I have to be friendly, you know, like what? And talk to them. And then fast forward to like a month after that, when I was like, bro, this isn't working out. He started like calling my mom out of nowhere. And for anyone that doesn't know, I don't have a good relationship with my mom. I got mommy issues, # mommy issues. And so the last thing you want to do is try and be buddy with my mom if you're dating me. That's the wrong parent. And so then I don't know what he was trying to do, but then he called my mom and he was like, did you know that Whitney's online all the time talking to hella dudes and this and this and that? And then started telling like all of our friends, because we had mutual friends, and now those mutual friends, they're nice to me, but we don't hang out anymore because of this dude. And I'm like, bro, this is why I didn't want you involved in any of this stuff. Like, you clearly had a problem with it. I told you like this was how it was going to be. If you had a problem with it, don't get involved with me. You know.
and then does your mom know? And your mom knows, obviously.
My mom knows,
and she knows you're making money now. Has she?
I haven't talked to her in a year.
Okay.
So I haven't updated
I know
you in a long
had
time.
like a rocky relationship.
Yeah.
Did it make it worse when you started making money?
A little bit, because then it was kind of, because she's always been about money. You know, that's always her like main thing. But because even when I told her like what I was doing, and she pulled me aside one day, she's like, "What? So what is this like?" Because I used to post like lingerie pictures on my Instagram all the time. That's all I would like really post. And then I was like, why am I posting stuff for free? You know, so that's why I barely post any of that kind of stuff. It's all comedy, travel on my page now. But and I was like, Mom, I basically just moved all my sexy content over to another site and I just get paid for it. She's like, oh. And then I kind of like told her a little bit more about it. She's like, that's right, honey. Get the man's money. And I was like, that's not, well, okay. That's not.
Yes and no, but yeah.
I was like, well.
She has a site now. It's like Mrs. Turtlefit.
Yeah. And I was
Turtle
like,
mom.
Turtle mom.
Yeah.
But she's always been about that kind of stuff. She's like, that's right. You get them for their money. I was like, Mom, that's not what, okay, you know. We're just going to stop right there.
But I mean, let's be real. The money is the main reason why you're doing it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, if it was just like any other site, I mean, would you really, like it's not really worth it. But yeah, that is one thing I noticed, that you did kind of change up sort of your Instagram page. It's not quite as much of that content. Like I know you've done a decent amount of modeling. In fact, I think you did a photo shoot over here one time.
Oh, yeah. I've
remember,
been modeling for like over 10 years,
right?
You know?
Yeah, and so I mean, it seems like it's natural to you. Now it's just a little bit more control over that, right? Whereas before it was always the photographer telling you what to do, and now you're kind of telling the photographer what you want to do, right?
Yeah, well, I take my own content.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't even have photographers take my content. Plus, people like the stuff on your phone a lot more because it's more personable.
Yep.
You know, so it's like they don't want like the over glamorized edited stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like
airbrushed and all that stuff. Yeah, they want to see
like,
the real you.
Exactly. Like no makeup on, that kind of stuff. Like just woken up. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, fuck, I look ugly. But like then I'll do a quick video and like, oh my God, you look beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like, I look trash. What are you talking about?
Well, I just feel like, I mean, we haven't seen each other in, I don't know, a few months, and I feel like you were always stressing about money. Always, it was just had like a grip on you.
It stressed
and
me out
now I
so
feel like
bad.
you can breathe a little bit now.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
just your demeanor, and then you've been pretty open about the whole painkiller thing and all that. That was a big thing in your life, right? And then you switched to what is that the all natural one that's helping out like millions of people?
Kratom.
So that was something I wanted to talk to you about.
Yes.
That is saved a lot of people's lives, because I know personally, gosh, I can name 10 people that have issues with painkillers, especially guys that I played football in college with. They would just give us, you know, you had a really bad accident, broke your back, your neck, and you don't even think about that. You're like, oh, it's from a doctor. You're good.
But I was taking them before I even got hurt.
Really? Yeah, till you were on a show? Can you say you're on a show?
I was on a TV show.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was on a TV show where I got hurt. But it didn't even, the painkiller part didn't even come from that. So I got hurt, what was I, like 24, 25? I got addicted to painkillers originally when I was 19, 20. Let's sound like I said in the 1920s.
Yeah. Way back when Prohibition was going on. What else was I going to do?
The Botox, I had so much surgery, not just my boobs, all over my face. But no, so yeah, it started like when I was like 19 or 20. I got it from like my boyfriend. I'll never forget the guy that I was with. He was Mexican because I used to only date Mexicans. And we were going to like his family's rodeo. And I was sitting in the back seat and he was in the passenger seat and his cousin was driving. And I see them passing something between them two. And I'm super nosy back then. It's like, what are you guys passing back and forth? And then they're like, it's a Vicodin. And I was like, what's a Vicodin? And no one's ever had that drug talk with me or whatever. So they're like, you want one? And I was like, what does it do? Like, it just makes you feel like kind of loopy and like nice. And I was like, okay. And remember the first time that night, I ended up throwing up, like massively throwing up everywhere. But did that stop me? No. 2 days later, I was like, that was fun, like, even though it wasn't, but 19, 20-year-old and like wanted to be one of the cool kids, like, oh, me too, me too. That's how I was. I was like a bandwagoner, like, let me do what everyone else is doing. And like I wanted to be accepted. And so then started doing it a little bit more here and there. Then I was getting them from some close friends of mine, and I would take them like every other day, and then it turned into like once in a day. And then I noticed it started like to give me like energy. I'm like, ooh, I get the energy to do stuff. And I tried to like keep it like, oh, let's just do it on the weekends when I party. And then during the week, I was like, but it gives me energy and I can focus at work because I was in the dental field, like a new, dental assistant. And so I was like, well, this can help me. And so then I started taking it during the week. And then it constantly became like, oh, now I'm taking it every day. And I had no idea how addicted they were. So then one day I ran out and I was like violently sick and I was like shaking. I was like dry heaving. I was like, what's wrong with me? And I called my friend and I was telling him like what was going on. He was like, yeah, you're withdrawing. I was like, what's withdrawing? And they're like, you're addicted to them. I said, no, you're lying. I was like, no. And he's like, yeah, you are. And so I was like, well, I need more because I can't feel like this. And so, like I said, no one had that talk with me. So I just kept buying them. But for the first like 5 years, I was taking them because I wanted to, because I liked the feeling and I liked to party and I liked how loopy it made me feel and that kind of stuff. And so for that first 5 years, I was only taking like maybe 1 or 2 a day at the max, right? And then I'd run out every so often, withdraw for like 1 or 2 days and then get them again. And it was just like a vicious cycle, right? So then I go on this TV show, get hurt really bad, break my back. And then I kind of use that as an excuse because it was really crazy because before you get on the show, they drug test you. And so I was like, oh, shit. I was like, I can't be on these things. I want to get on this show because you win a lot of money if you win this show. So I was like, okay. So the money was my motivation. I was like, I'm going to get off of cold turkey. Like, I can do this. Like, and then this will be good for me, right? Then I won't have to do these anymore. I don't have to waste money on them. Because back then they were like $3 a pill, which was back then expensive compared to what they were later on. But anyways, so anyways, I withdrew for like a week and a half, and it was miserable. I remember I sat in my bed and I just called in sick all week and told my dad that I was like, I had the flu or whatever. And I just watched The Grandfather. Well, I watched all of them. And the only scene that I remember, because I was so out of it, was the horse scene where they killed the horse or something. And they put the horse head on the bed.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry,
Spoiler alert.
I'm sure everyone's seen it. But that's the only scene I remember because I was like, I was shaking, I was sweating, I had like restless leg syndrome. Oh my gosh, you feel like you just want to like scrape your skin off your body. I don't wish that on anyone. Like, and even after that week, once that went by and I kind of got through the worst of it, then life honestly like sucked. Like I there wasn't anything meaningful to life, basically. I was just like, what the fuck? This is awful. And I was envious of like everyone that can live a normal life that didn't have to be on pills. And I felt like I needed the pills just to feel normal. And so then I go on the show and I'm like jittery. I can barely like even focus. You have like low energy. You get spurts of, high energy, low energy and that kind of stuff. Well, then I get hurt. And then that was like my excuse. I was like, oh, hell yeah. Now I got a prescription for it. Now I have an excuse. It's okay. That's what I told myself. And it went from, like I said, I was only taking like 1 or 2 a day before. I went up to, I think my worst was like 19, 20 pills in a day. And those weren't even Vicodin. They were Norcos. Yeah. Norcos are way stronger before they were Nikes. Before they were Vicodins.
I took Nikes too. No, that's something totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like it just was way worse. And I mean, I was I still lived at home, couldn't afford to move out. I would spend all of my money on pills and only leave myself $20 to eat for the rest of the week. Borrowed money from my dad all the time. And like, that's where like the main thing where I had to like make that switch, and I'm like, I got to make more money. I have to take care of my dad, because there was, after all that time had went by, fast forward 10 years, because I was addicted to them for 10 years. That last 5 years, I hated myself so much for being addicted to them that I would only take them so I wouldn't withdraw, but I hated the feeling, because I hated the reminder of how like dark it like led me down. I was maxed out my credit cards, like all kinds of stuff. My credit score was awful. It's like in the 400s. And so like totally ruined everything. But then fast forward like 10 years down the road, my dad sat me down, because he never knew. I hid it from everybody. The only people that knew were my dealers. And so my dad sat me down. He goes, how much money I've given you just in this last year? And I was like, how much? And he's like, $10,000. I was like, what? And my dad doesn't have money like that. We've been broke, all my life. Like, barely. My dad had to file bankruptcy because of my mom, like all this shit. Like, we didn't have money. So my dad's furniture is the furniture that I had in like 1988 when I was born. Like, he's a very, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of person. So then that like broke my heart, and I was like, what? And I didn't have the heart to tell him like the reason behind all the money that I need to borrow. And so then that's when I was like, I need to figure something out. I need to take care of him, because he was so stressed out that he couldn't retire. Once he retired, they would take like this company car away from him. So I made it my goal to buy him a car so he didn't have to worry about that, and then also be able to give him money financially so he can retire and be stress-free, because he wasn't worried about himself. He was always worried about me and like what I was going to do. Like, because if he didn't have a job, if he wasn't working, if I needed help, then what was he going to do? That's all he thought about, was like me all the time. So that's when I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I'm making the transition. I'm doing it. And if people want to talk shit, I don't care.
No, it's so funny. This is so relevant, because today when I was getting my haircut, my barber was talking about pain pill
they're the worst.
addiction. And I said, it makes a lot of sense to me, especially, having played football and been around other football players, like people who've played sports and had injuries.
Yeah.
It's really easy for them to get hooked on that stuff, because it's there and it makes the pain go away.
Oh, yeah.
I've known a couple friends who got really into it. I know a buddy who was at least 8 Norco a day.
Yeah.
That was his go-to. I mean, this guy's snorting it. You know what I mean? He's trying to get that effect. And I'm like, dude, what is going on? Like, and it's an opiate. You know what I mean? Like, it is damn near heroin. It's heroin in a pill. So the itching, God, I gotta get this stuff, baby. I got these cheeseburgers, man. Please, I got these cheeseburgers. Please give me some Norco, baby. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and it's one of those things. Like, I took them a couple times too. I always had like ankle injuries and back, pain, and so I would get like the pain pills and stuff. Like, I'll find the ones that really I liked a lot were more the muscle relaxers. I always found muscle relaxers were amazing.
I never liked them because they made me groggy.
But that's what I'm saying. I need to sleep. Yeah. I need to fall asleep. Like on Vicodin, I'm not sleeping. I'm like you say, it's funny how it gets you kind of.
It would amp me.
That's what I'm saying. It numbs you a little bit, but it also gives you energy. It's one of those weird things,
Like, sometimes it would put people to sleep. It would give me energy. Yeah. I'd have like all this energy to do stuff. And I was like, wow, this is amazing.
That's what I say. It's hard to get rid of that, because it's helping you in a way. But then, when you're not in pain, it's just this nice thing. And it's easier to hide than alcohol. It's easier to hide than smoking anything. It's easier to hide than a lot of the other drugs. Like I said, I knew you while you were doing this stuff, and I had no idea.
Yeah,
I didn't
no
know that.
one knew.
I just always knew you had no money. I'm like, how does she have no money? She lives at home. Like, I'm like,
Everyone
what?
would ask me that.
And so what was it? Like, when did you, after 10 years, like what was the turning point? Where was like the day, okay, were you introduced to Kratom for the first time, or what was it?
It's actually like a weird, crazy story, because like I had met one of my other best friends, Tristan, a long time ago, and he was like an adventurer and that kind of stuff. And this is before I got like into like my adventure side and that and all that. So I went on one of his adventures with like him and his wife back then, and going on that and like seeing like the freedom and just like how free I felt like being out in nature. And I kind of like forgot about the urge to like take a pill. Like sometimes I was taking it just out of habit versus like I know I didn't need to. It's just like the habit of grabbing one, and it kept my mind off of things. And I was like, man, I want this. I was like, I want this bad. And I was like in LA. And I remember I was driving home from LA and I was like crying in the car. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I've tried like tapering off of them, and like you can for like a couple days, and then your body starts to go in like this weird shock. And then you're like, okay, well, I'll just take one extra one, and it doesn't work. So then you do another one. You're like, fuck, it's not working. I feel like shit. And then you're right back to where you started, because it's like, it does something to your mind where it's like, it's so hard to get off of them. And so then I was crying, I was driving, and I got a phone call from my ex-boyfriend, the one that actually introduced me to them, because we were still friends. We would talk maybe like once or twice a year or whatever, to say like friendly, hey, how's it going, blah, 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 because he always felt bad that he got me addicted to them. And he was addicted to them at the same time too, so we would always help each other find pills. So actually, take that back. He was the only other person that knew I was addicted to them, because he was the one that gave them to me. So then he called me and he was like, hey, are you still addicted to Norcos? I said, well, of course, yeah. Like, what else am I supposed to do, bro? And he was like, I'm off of them. I was like, what? He's like, I've been off them for a week. And I was like, you're lying. And he's like, no. And I was like, what are you doing? I'll try anything. And I was like, wiping the tears off my face. I was like, I'll try anything. Like, I'm so done with this stuff, but I can't get off them. And he was like, it's this stuff called Kratom. And so I was like, I'm driving to the place to go get them right now. And so by the time I got back, the place was closed. So I went like the next day. But so he taught me like how back then, when it was like, it was still new, so they didn't have them like in capsules like they have them now. So you had to do like this, like a powder shot. And so he like told me how to do it. Like you basically just have to make the switch. Like the next day, take the Kratom and do not take any of the pills whatsoever. If you feel like shit, just take more Kratom. And so I was doing like, you know, like you dry scoop pre-workout. So like that, but the stuff tastes like gerbil food. Like it tastes like gerbil, like grass, you know, stuff's awful. So I'm just like in the back at my work, and everyone's like, you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. Like, you know? But yeah. And so then it was crazy, because it was August 29th was the last time I had pills. So it'll be 5 years this year. Yeah.
So did you ever think about going to rehab? Was that like
It scared me. I thought about it all the time, but it scared me because I didn't want to be labeled as like a drug addict, or like, oh, she had to go to rehab. And then it's almost like you get that like sticker stuck to your head for the rest of your life. Like, oh, this person's a drug addict, they've been to rehab, you know. And I was afraid of that, because I was always afraid of what people thought of me, you know. And but at the same time, I think back, I'm like, I probably should have tried it, but I was just too afraid of what people would think, because like on the outside, everyone's like, oh, look at this little like nerdy white chick. Like no one would think that I'm over here addicted to pain pills.
And you got lucky, because what's going on now with the fentanyl?
Yes,
and like,
it started coming out like right when I got off them, and that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Kratom. Tell everyone what Kratom is. I know it's a natural. Where does it come from? Like,
it's like an all natural plant. Okay. I mean, I don't know everything about it, but the thing is, I'm not like condoning like, oh, everyone go try Kratom. No, because I've heard that you can get addicted to Kratom still, like if you take a lot of it and that kind of stuff. And the thing is, like, if you take enough of it, I guess you can get the same feeling as like a Norco. But I never, like I said before, I hated the feeling of it. But there was one time I was at work and I accidentally took too many, because I was like in panic mode, that I was starting to feel like the withdrawal symptoms. It was like 2 weeks after I'd got off them. And so I took some more Kratom, and then like an hour later, still felt like shit. And I forgot like how much I took. So I took like double the dose. And I got loopy as hell trying to work on patience, and like, but it made me sleepy. And I was like at the little hallway, and I'm like kind of swaying back and forth. My eyes just like barely open. Everyone's like, you okay? I'm like, no. They're like, what's wrong? I was like, I took some Benadryl.
And so what do you do now? Or do you like a maintenance mode, or are you done? Or,
so no, I
like,
still.
How does it work? Like, is it like a vitamin kind of?
Pretty much, yeah. Like I still take them, especially when I get anxiety, because due to the pain pill addiction, it created fucking anxiety. So, and it's crazy because I didn't know that I started getting anxiety until I was like 25, and I didn't realize it until in my 30s. Like once I got off of it, I was like, oh, this is anxiety. Like this is what, because I guess all the pain pills that I've taken over time, it's changed like my brain chemistry. So that's that, but. I still, for the longest time, I would take them just out of habit, just like as a force of like reaching in my purse or whatever and like grabbing one or two. But now I'm just like, I take them for when I get anxiety. So.
And you know how lucky you are.
Oh, yeah.
As my girlfriend and I, she's over there.
Oh shit!
We
scared the crap out of me. She was over.
we watch Intervention and all those kind of shows, and now it's all fentanyl. Like,
oh yeah,
all fentanyl.
It's scary.
They've dedicated the show Intervention to fentanyl only. But what you're describing is what is an opiate addiction. But you know how easy it is to go to heroin from that. Like,
yeah,
so easy. And I've talked to friends personally, same kind of deal. Guys I played football with, you get addicted, you don't know anything, and then they're shooting heroin. And it sounds like, oh, that's crazy, but that's an easy transition from, I mean, it's opiate addiction.
Yeah.
So you're so lucky.
Well, that's one thing I told myself, because like I was telling you guys before, like I hated the fact that I was addicted to them. So I always told myself, like, I would never transition to something. Like, I didn't even like taking like oxycodones. Like, no, you know, I was like, I would rather withdraw and die from the withdrawals, because I was taking so many that I would have died, you know, if I stopped taking them. But I told myself, like, I'm not going to transition to something worse. I was like, I'd rather just die. But there was at one point where, like, I was having issues, like when I did get off of them, and I thought it was like my time. Like when I did the switch, the transition from them to the kratom, like my organs were starting to shut down. I had jaundice. Like I was scared. I still have I like documented it. I told myself like one day I'd like make like a little docu thing and like put it out there, but I'm just don't really have the balls to do that. And at the same time, I'm like, no one's going to want to watch it. Like, you know, I don't know. But I documented the whole thing of like me in the car. I went and got like an x-ray. They almost had to like take out my, what do you call my gallbladder, that kind of stuff. I had like a liver problem. Like my eyes were like really jaundiced. It was scary. Like I was skinny as hell too. I was like, scared shitless, but everything was just shutting down. And then finally it just kind of like got better overnight, because I started doing like all these like holistic things. I was asking a bunch of like my holistic friends, and I was like, what do I do? You know, and they were like, take this, do this tea and this and that. And I was like, okay. And I did everything, and then everything just kind of like went back to normal. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, that's amazing with your liver, is it can regenerate. So there's a lot of other things out there that can't, like when they're talking about like the pancreas and the issue with the peptides. Is it goes through your pancreas, but you only get one of those. It doesn't regenerate. So you're really lucky with your liver. But I appreciate you being so candid. I know it's like a personal thing, but I think a lot of people out there can relate, and you've probably helped out, you know, more than you know. People listening to this be like, wow, there's an alternative.
I'm always an open book when it comes to that. I wasn't at first, because like I said, I was scared of what I was going to be labeled as, but I was like, whatever, you know, fuck it.
So common.
It's understandable. Like, this makes me feel good, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to keep taking it. And then all of a sudden, you know, and it's one of those things too. It makes a lot of sense to me that your organs are failing, because you're talking about how that was your number one priority. Oh, and I'd also eat a little bit here and there, you know, like your body really can't handle that. And it's funny, because like I remember, you know, being in college and thereabouts, you know, and you're doing a lot of stuff, and you know, you make it through, and you're like, oh, I can do this again. You know, but you can only do it for so many times before your body's like, all right, knock it the hell off, bro. Like, seriously, we're entering our 30s, we're entering our 40s. Yeah. Knock it off.
Well, and that's why I thought I wasn't going to live past 30. I was like, you know, shoot, because I didn't see a way out from it. You know, I didn't even see a way out from moving out of my dad's house. Like,
what did the price of pills, you said they were $3. What did they go up to? Was there like a shortage, or it was harder to get, right?
They were getting harder, because like doctors were regulating them more and that kind of stuff. And there was one time that I bought like fake pills but like the last time I had bought some, they were like $9-10 a pill. And then if they were really like sparse, sometimes people were like selling them for $13-14 a pill, because they knew people needed them. And I was buying like 80 at a time, 90 at a time, like ridiculous amounts, because I didn't want to run out. Like I had so many connections that I didn't run out for 5 years. Like for the first 5 years, I would run out because I only had like 1 or 2 connections. But by the like, as time went on, I had so many that it was just like, sometimes people would hit me up. I'm like, no, I don't need any. And then once I got off of them, I had one friend, he knew that I was addicted to them. And so once I got off of them, I gave him all my contacts. I was like, here, like you can like use these people like for, you know, the same thing. But I was like, never contact me again. And I don't want these people to ever contact me again. I was like, I don't want any association with, and I don't want anyone to reach out to me. I even texted everyone. I was like, I'm not taking these anymore. Even if I text you and I want some, do not reply to me. So, and I deleted all their numbers out of my phone to keep me away from it. But I didn't, once I like got to that point of taking credit, I never even looked back. I never even thought twice. I was like, fuck that.
And what are they trying to take kratom off the market? Right, I heard that.
They did. They tried to like the more pure version of it or something from Asia, but then they started growing it in the U.S. so they can regulate it. So that was the issue. But that was a long time ago. I don't know about now.
I'll be honest. I think I've smoked kratom before. I'm pretty confident that the person to my left might have given me a bag of it one time.
Wait,
like,
you can smoke
no, it was the gosh, what was the spice? The incense that you could like. I had my manufacturer like send over like a couple samples, and he's like, you got to try it. Like it's legal weed and you can smoke it, but it's called like it's incense.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
But it's labeled incense, but you can smoke it. And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, send some samples over. I'll give it to a couple of my buddies. I give it to Tim. I give it to my other buddy Matt, who started like getting paranoid. Remember that? He was like stuck in the bathroom and like,
oh no.
I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna like. Thanks for the sample, but
thanks, but no thanks.
And the crazy story about him, he went to prison for that.
No way.
Yeah, because kids started killing themselves with it. Yeah, so he did. I think he did 9 years in federal prison, and that's the crazy story about life, right? Like I could have made that one decision that could have ruined my life.
Yeah.
You know, just like, oh, like, what if Tim was like, oh, I love it. Like, give me more of that.
Yeah.
And I, you know, he's like, please, like,
Please,
give me the cheeseburger, give me that incense, you know.
Come on, man. Give me that kratom.
But I could have, you know, that's crazy in your story.
Well, and it's like,
you know?
Looking back, you know, I always thought to myself, like, man, I wish I would have never have taken it. I wish this, I wish. And at the same time, I'm like, now that I think about it, I'm like, no, I'm glad it happened. And I'm glad it happened in my 20s and not in my 30s, 40s, 50s, like if I have kids or whatever. But I'm so grateful for it because it made me so appreciative of the life that I have now and being able to travel and see the world and, you know, even like going just somewhere that's 4 hours from here in California and seeing something like the mountains. Like I just see, like I did bring one of my friends on a trip one time and he was like, ooh, rocks, pretty. And I was like, yo, like, you don't understand how beautiful these rocks are. like I'm so appreciative of it because like I never thought that I was going to be able to do anything like that because I couldn't travel. Because if I traveled, I would miss a deal with my connection. You know, I couldn't like go anywhere that was further than a couple hours because I didn't want to not be home if someone hit me up like, hey, I got pills. You know.
And do you feel like you have that connection with nature because of that, because of the addiction, and this is more like you're freeing yourself? And when you go camping and
like I just like I take it all in, and it doesn't get old to me. Like, you know, I was thinking like maybe one day like, oh yeah, it's just another mountain. Like no, every single time I'm just like, holy fuck, you know, because I'm always constantly reminded of like where I was, you know, like I never got to do any of this kind of stuff before.
And you're traveling like crazy. I mean, we see your social media and you're doing rock slides and like swimming with great whites. I don't know, all this crazy stuff. What is the coolest place that you've traveled to? Because I feel like the chains have been lifted, right? And you no longer have addiction, so you can go anywhere. Yeah. Where is if you could say like maybe your top 3 places that you've traveled recently in the last 5-6 years that are your go-tos that you would go back to?
Bora Bora would be number 1. That was like unreal. And like for all my like spiritual people out there, like the connection that you have with the mountain that's out there is just like otherworldly. Like you can't explain it. Like you can literally feel the energy that's coming off this mountain and it's like insane. But that would be number 1. Number 2, the Maldives was really, really cool. But since I had been to to Bora Bora, I was like, man, Bora Bora is so much better, you know? But I was trying not to be like a snob about it, you know, because it was still like a lot of people never get to go to the Maldives in their lifetime ever, you know? But that was really cool. Okay, I got to get my top 4. So then my next one would be London. London was wasn't even planned. It was just like a diversion when I was going back home, and I was like, wow, this is so cool, like all the architecture, like the history, that kind of stuff. But then I would have to say the Grand Tetons is probably one of my other favorites, like the mountains. And I remember like driving down, because it's right there next to Yellowstone. So I was visiting Yellowstone, and someone was like, oh, make sure you go to Grand Tetons. I was like, never heard of it. And I was like, sure, I'll go drive past it, and I drove past it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, holy shit, and I was just like, this is beautiful. And I did like one of the most strenuous hikes that I've ever done. It was going up to this alpine lake, and it was, I forgot how many miles it was. It felt like 24 miles. It was probably like 12 miles round trip, but it was all up. It was up this like rocky mountain, and you have to be aware of like the bears and that kind of stuff, like all the nature. But I was just going off like a map on my phone, because there's no trail. You're just crawling up these rocks, And every like 10 minutes, I was like, I'm gonna give up. I'm just gonna turn around. And I was like, nah, fuck that. Just keep going. And I was like, oh shit, it's getting late. I was like, I should turn around. I'm like, nope, keep going. And I'm so glad that I did, because once I got to the top, there was only me and like one other couple that was up there that was getting married up there. But it was beautiful. Like the sun was setting, like the lake was just like pristine, like, because it's so high up that not everyone can go see it. And it was just like, it looked untouched. It was unreal. And I was like, wow. I was up there for like 7 minutes. I was like, okay, I got to go down now before I get eaten by a bear. Like, because the sun was going down. And that's one of my rules. If I'm by myself, like, I don't care how beautiful it is, get your ass back down the mountain. You're not going to hike in the dark, because that's dangerous.
Did you ever imagine that you would visit all these places?
No, that's what's like so mind blowing
like
to me.
You telling me your top 4, 5-6 years ago, we're all here barbecuing. Yeah. Like, I would never, ever imagine, because you were like jealous, like, oh, you went on a Carnival cruise. I'm like, well, what? Like, who cares?
I was like jealous of like the little tiny things,
And it's so cool you're able, the Maldives and Bora Bora, like,
so
the stuff's like, coming out of your mouth right now. It's like, I would never, ever imagine that.
Whitney World Traveler,
Yeah. And so it's like, when people are like, wow, it must be nice. Yeah, it fucking is.
Yeah. I work hard for this, and I get to enjoy it. So it's not too bad.
And I appreciate it like so much, and just like, holy fuck. And like half the time that I get back from a trip, I tell myself, okay, I need to stay home, chill out for a little bit, and then I get the itch again. I'm like, I need to go out in nature.
Yeah.
Well, it's two things, right? You never got to travel before.
Yeah, never.
Because there's a financial reason, and then the addiction thing. So now you're free to that, and you have financial freedom. So it's like a double whammy.
Oh yeah, it was a whole other like freeing like feeling. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is what life's about, Like, so sometimes people don't even get to do that till they're retired, and even after they're retired, some people don't even do it. Yeah.
Never.
So it's like, I'm just so appreciative of it all,
Well, we appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Such a cool story, and it's different than where we've had pro athletes. We had, the Bigfoot hunter on here. We've had
Justin Smea.
Yeah, we've had CEOs, and this is just a whole different, entrepreneur route.
Different vibe.
But I appreciate your openness.
Of course, always.
It was really cool. I think you're going to help a lot of people out there. And
even if I help one, that'd be
it's worth it. So we appreciate you. We're 2 bees in a pod. It looks like Tim over here.
I got to piss my brains out.
So bad. Don't forget, he's out. He can't even finish the show right now. He was convulsing, and I kept on going a little longer just because... I wanted to see him suffer a little bit, but
see him squirm.
Yeah, but we are done for the night. 2 bees in a pod. Again, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, comment. I feel I have to say that over and over again, but I guess that's what you got to do.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to tell people what to do.
So if you're listening right now, you better rate it. But rate it good. Give me 5 stars on Spotify. But we appreciate the listeners. Appreciate Whitney.
Thanks for having me.
You guys have a good day. And 2 bees in a pod. We're out.
Thanks for watching 2 bees in a pod. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, and thank you for all the love and support.